claw weapons. While not hitting hard, they're fast and effective at building up bleed. With only 4 unique claw weapons within the game, most people probably glance them over, not giving them a second thought. But what if you use claws as your primary weapon? Today I will be trying to figure out, can you beat Elden Ring with only claw weapons? As for my starting class, I chose the Samurai for its dexterity as well as strength and endurance stats. I wanted to go with a cat name, so the first thing that came to mind was a Khajiit. As for the face, I tried my best to make the Oblivion version of a Khajiit, which I thought came out pretty good. I had the bright idea to try and punch my way through the beginning boss, and immediately failed. After waking up in a cave underground, I made my way up to the surface and over to the gate side Grace to grab Torrent. Now to explain a little bit of how this run's gonna go in the beginning. There's only one claw weapon that is available from the start of the game, and that is the Venomous Fang, in the abandoned cave in Caelid. While it wasn't my first choice for a weapon, the next claw weapon available is after Margit. I quickly made a detour over to the First Church of America, and grabbed the Wondrous Physique Flask for buffs later on down the road. 2 that come to mind are the Crimson Burst Crystal Tier, which steadily regains health, and the Dexterity Knot Crystal Tier that gives you plus 10 dexterity. I quickly make my way over to the trap chest that takes you to the Celia Crystal Tunnels in order to get into Caelid. When I'm there, I quickly head over to the abandoned cave, picking up items along the way to sell for runes later on. Let me make my way over this little route right here, and yeah, that was on me. Alright, this time I won't be on Torrent, and I'll take it by foot, so I should be completely fine. Or not. Okay, 3rd time's the charm. I quickly make my way through the cave and over to the Venomous Fang. I don't need to kill a boss, so this should be easy. Or it won't be. That could happen too. After a couple tries, I am able to get the Fang. Now that that's out of the way, I make my way over to Celia to grab the Rotten Stray Ashes, and then progress through the town in order to get to the Church of the Plague. After this, I head over to the Spirit Spring just north of here to get to the fort in order to get the Radagon Sorcerer. I also grab the right half of the Dectus Medallion while there. Before heading over to Margit, I decided it might be best to get a 100% physical block shield from my merchant in order to help with the fight. Now for the Margit boss fight. I could have used the shield in order to block some of his attacks, but it ultimately made me slower with my own. I decided to just rely on the knowledge of the fight and not use the shield. I didn't state this before, but out of the 4 claw weapons in the game, 3 of them deal bleed damage. The only one that doesn't is the Venomous Fang, opting for instead inflicting poison. I'm not too sure which one's better, the bleed or the poison over time, but I had to use these claws for Margit regardless of which one is stronger. The first attempt goes well, but I end up dying. At this point in the run, I'm dealing with some problems with the game running and try to change my settings accordingly. So if any of the footage looks a bit grainy or stuttery, that's why. During the second attempt, I considered using the Rotten Stray Ashes because inflicting poison along with Scarlet Rot would be very devastating to Margit. But in the end, I didn't even have a 3rd attempt to begin with, so 1 boss down. While making my way through Stormhill Castle, I pick up the Hook Claws on my way to Godrick. Initially, I wasn't going to use anything but the Venomous Fangs because of the bleed buildup. I also considered adding an Ash of War to them in order to have bleed buildup as well, but decided not to allow them because this is a claw only run, and with an Ash of War I could have added something like magic or fire. After a short run, I finally make it to Godrick, who is an absolute brick wall. Not too sure what his deal was, but if I got close to him, he would spam the same combos and attacks over and over. After a few attempts, I started to get his patterns down, but another problem arises. Claw weapons have actual booty range. I could tape knives to my nipples and have more range than claws. There's a couple times I'm so close I might as well be hugging his knee and not getting any hits. After several attempts, I decide to switch the Venomous Fang for the hook claws, and the range does seem to be a bit better and the bleed does seem to be helping as well. Even with his awkward AI, Godrick goes down without much more fuss. Roadblock one of many more to go down.
I am the Lord of all that is golden.
I then head over to the Weeping Peninsula to grab the Twin Blade Talisman, which adds extra damage to my final chain attack. Now, it's time to upgrade my hook claws. Instead of finding the smithing stones traditionally, I head over to the Raya Lucario Crystal Tunnel. While I'm there, I grab some level 3 smithing stones before grabbing the first smithing stone miner's bell bearing. The boss that drops the bell bearing isn't hard, but doesn't go down without a fight. With these bosses, they take way less damage before you break the posture. After you do so, they become just any old fight and you can do pretty good damage to them. With that boss down, the bell bearing is mine. After that, I head back to pick up the Academy Glintstone Key, and then I head over to the Belham Highway in order to get into the Academy. Getting through the Academy is easy as ever, and before long, I am at the Red Wolf of Radagon boss fight. I was a little worried about this fight due to how fast the boss can move, however I was doing good damage. With this boss, much more aggressive than Godrick and Margit, it even manages to kill me right at the very end. The next attempt goes smoother, and the dog goes down. To get over to Rennala faster, I always take the path to the right with the big balls. The NPC guarding her lift is a little tedious to fight, but you can bait him out and make the balls fall on him. With that, I now have a straight shot to Rennala. The first phase is an obvious joke and goes by without much effort on my part. On my first attempt, we killed each other at the same time, but it didn't count and I had to fight her again. On the second attempt, I found out I could one-cycle the first phase, which made an already easy fight easier. This try doesn't go nearly as well, but I do take her out on my third try. After dealing with Rennala, I decided to go and get the left part of the Dectus Medallion. Since this run was going so well, I decided to go and fight Radon in order to get his armor set. His armor set is one of the best for defenses and resistances in the game, and is relatively light. I've absolutely shredded through the other bosses so far, so how hard could Radon be? Turns out the answer is really fucking hard. After being humbled by that failure, I decided to head back to the capital. I quickly make a detour over to the sealed tunnel just outside the capital in order to get the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing level 2. At this point, I also go and get the 2 crystal tears that I mentioned earlier for a quick and easy buff. Time to actually get into the capital by fighting the Dragor Tree Sentinel. The fight doesn't go as well, and it takes me a few tries before realizing the Rotten Stray Ashes may be a good idea. After a couple tries of using him, he is able to inflict Scarlet Rot. With my constant damage and Scarlet Rot, the Tree Sentinel is down. Now, I'm finally in the capital. After this place, I'm officially about halfway through the game, which is nice. The next boss fight up is Godfrey, and I have a feeling he may not be too bad. Little did I know, I'm about to learn the hard way that spirits don't bleed.